Welcome to the Chicago Bears Podcast, a presentation of ESPN Chicago, Chicago's home for sports. Here's your host, Pat, the Designer.
Minicamp, we saw the defense. We've heard so much about all the holes, but we've also heard that the defense is making quite a few plays. I think people forget at this point because of how much we want Justin to be good. We want the running game to be good. We want the wide receivers to be good. The defense also plays for us.
Yeah.
What stood out to you about the defense in minicamp and OTAs? What's standing out to you about any specific players or units over there?
The defense is always ahead of the offense at this time of year because the offense isn't scheming for what the defense's coverages are going to be. They're not scheming for a pass rush and certain moves everything's very much like in the vanilla stages. Yeah. The offense is just trying to get together, focusing on themselves, while the defense focuses on itself. So when you see more plays happening on the defensive side of the ball in OTAs and in minicamp, it leads you to believe, okay, they've got the right personnel in there. We've heard about some of the new additions and how well they've, adapted to this culture and the leadership. I mean, Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards are going to be, part of the heart and soul of this defense, which is great for two free agents coming in that they can get in that quickly. But the other names that stand out, DeMarcus Walker now going into year 7 and what he's going to provide for this team, the inside-outside versatility, I think is so important because that's something, if the Bears don't end up getting any name that can really make a big impact from, the pass rush from the edge, he might be your big one, big player that you're relying on. So right. I don't know what'll happen with that in the next couple of weeks. Matt Eberflus left the door open to it, but as it stands right now, until they get in pads, it will be hard to tell. Will you have guys making business decisions on run plays? Will you have blown coverages? How will a lack of a pass rush, at least what we expect it to look like, unless there's improvements, how will that affect the back end of the defense? Because you don't want Jaquan Brisker leading the team in sacks again. As cool as that was, you don't want that. But yeah, DeMarcus Walker, the two linebackers, Tyreek Stevenson, some of the new names that have really stood out during training camp are ones that you anticipate playing sizable roles from the jump this season. And that's good that the ones you expect are the ones doing the work and standing out.
Yeah, I mean, I love that I'm hearing about Jaquan Brisker intercepting the football. You know what I mean? I would like it to not come off of Justin Fields, but I mean, realistically, he knows it's passing downs. He's out there to make plays, and I like that we're still hearing his name a lot. I mean, he was a guy to me that I thought could have been, defensive rookie of the year in the running. Now, of course, he wasn't going to win it, but I thought that he really stood out for us. And I mean, even hearing about Kyler Gordon, how he's settling into the slot. I mean, what have you seen from him at minicamp? Was he still kind of showing those flashes that he showed in OTAs?
Yeah, the last week, or no, it was earlier this week, the interception he had, he's in the right position. I think for him being in the slot, getting the focus in on that one spot will be critical to his growth because he was tasked with doing so much. Last time this year, what is it? Last year at this time.
Last year,
he was I just remember it's all right, well, where's he playing? Oh, we're going to cross train him at both. I understand the need to do it. Right. And to play, the traditional cornerback spot where you've got the boundary and you're opposite Jalen Johnson is important, but it's too much. He was, sometimes having to play both positions, actually all the time, having to play both positions in the same game. And there will be an injury need for that, of course, but allowing him to zero in on one place, one position will be really beneficial for Kyler Gordon moving forward. And I look at that secondary and it feels way more solidified this year going into camp than last year going into training camp.
Right.
We didn't know about Eddie Jackson bouncing back. He's back out there right now. He's, playing through all the rehab that he's had to do to his Liz Frank injury. And it's a great sign to see him out there. We knew that Jaquan Brisker had a high ceiling. You really didn't know, okay, well, what is he going to look like with Eddie Jackson? Is that mix going to work? Clearly it did. And then now you have your cornerback spot set. Like, again, this is so different. This is a different feel about this team than last year from offense to the defense, because you don't have positions that are totally in flux. If we had to name the starting corners today, you could do it. You can name a lot of positions on the defense that have starters today, and that's a good spot to be in.
When we look at this defensive line, I think that's where a lot of Bears fans' concern comes on the defensive end. But we've heard some names, kind of showing themselves out. DeMarcus Walker a little bit standing out as a leader. Even Terrell Lewis, who I mean, like, we heard that he was basically destroying Darnell Wright the other day, which is, I mean, at this point, okay, cool. Let's improve on it. But is there somebody like that who, right, a Terrell Lewis, or, somebody who's maybe that fringe guy that was brought in just to be competitive, that you're like, okay, I could see him being a real asset to the Chicago Bears?
It's a good question. Noah Sewell is where I'll go with that, because we know that Jack Sanborn's injured. He's still coming back with the ankle injury. I saw him walking around during minicamp. He doesn't have any noticeable brace, anything on his ankle, left one that got injured. So how soon he's going to come back, I think training camp is the window that they're looking at. But you want to see him out there at some point. There's so much promise about him coming off a really good rookie season until the time he got hurt. But Noah Sewell stepped into that role when they're in base, and who knows? He could be, pushing Jack Sanborn for playing at that spot. Now, we have not seen Sanborn because of the injury, but when he comes back, more depth at linebacker never hurts. And I really am impressed with how quickly Noah Sewell, he was a 5-star recruit, 4 or 5-star recruit at one point. Very clearly he's a very good football player. So the fact that he's getting some good size number of reps with the ones is a big thing right now. Is there a feeling that Jack Sanborn still has this number 1 spot right now, or is there Noah Sewell might actually be taking this spot? What's the vibe around him? Because he's a player. When I watched him in college, I was like, this dude, you could tell he's Panay's brother, first off, because I was like, he could be a pass rusher if he really wanted to have his hand in the dirt. A lot of the moves he did to get around defensive linemen, I was like, he could actually be a pass rusher. Yeah, it's funny because I remember asking him about that, during rookie camp. I was like, do you ever play on the offensive line? Because obviously size difference is one thing, but it's no, that was never his thing. And to have that pedigree in your bloodline, he's had family members play in the NFL. Obviously, his brother was a first-round pick by the Lions a couple of years ago. It's his intelligence, I think, is part of the reason why he's able to get so many early reps with the first-team defense. And whether that means Jack Sanborn, I'm not saying at all Jack Sanborn's on borrowed time or anything like that, but this is a good development in terms of, hey, you got somebody behind you who's pushing you potentially for your spot. You got to get out there when you're healthy and prove that you deserve the spot still. That's never a bad thing to have extra competition. Now, how people react to competition, how people perform when their jobs are potentially going to be taken over by somebody else, that is something that you have to consider. But I think it's a great spot for this defense to be in, and especially with Noah Sewell as a day 3 draft pick, able to come in early on and earn significant playing time. Now, the other player that I know Flu said that he kind of wanted to see a little bit more was Terrell Smith, the cornerback from Minnesota. He's been injured during minicamp. So, but despite him being a 6th-round draft pick, the team's really excited about him. And more depth at corner never hurts. I remember Mike Zimmer, the coach of Minnesota Vikings, always said his theory was just one more corner, just one more. You got to have one more, because when you feel like you have enough, that's when an injury happens. That's when your depth gets tested. So how he looks at training camp and whether he can, kind of play his way onto this roster into a depth role, see what he does in special teams. I'm excited to see what that one looks like too.